We expect the divine to be discovered in a laboratory or measured across cosmic scales. This is a category error. Science has a different objective. The scientific method quantifies physical variables, observable events, and repeatable processes occurring within space and time. It explains the mechanics of the universe. It cannot explain why a universe exists to have mechanics in the first place. Classical philosophy defines God as actus purus, pure actuality, or being itself. This is a reality that is spaceless, timeless, and non-physical. Science remains agnostic because God is not a physical hypothesis. However, in a logical framework, metaphysical deduction demonstrates a creator is a necessity. Modern atheistic frustration comes down to selecting the wrong instrument for the investigation. Reason provides the map to the infinite, but that map has hard mechanical boundaries. Human reason operates through three distinct mechanics: the gatekeeper, the architect, and the limiter. As the gatekeeper, reason's primary role is elimination. It applies the law of non-contradiction to filter out logical impossibilities, ensuring our concepts are coherent before we move further. Next, reason functions as the architect. Because we cannot grasp the infinite directly, we observe finite effects, like causality and order, and use analogy to build a conceptual framework pointing towards their source. Finally, reason acts as the limiter. Its highest function is the recognition of its own ceiling. It identifies that the creator is supra-rational, existing above the reach of our logic, rather than acting against it. Reason creates the scaffolding for belief. It takes us to the edge of the intellect, but cannot reveal the essence of what lies beyond it. Aristotle and Thomas Aquinas began their climb by observing a basic fact of the physical world. Everything is in a state of change, or contingency. A thing only changes if it is influenced by another. This creates a chain of movers and causes that stretches back through time. Logic dictates that this chain cannot be infinite. A series of gears with no engine at the start will never turn. There must be an unmoved mover, a first uncaused cause. Following this deduction leads to a firm conclusion. A necessary being must exist to account for the existence of the universe. This inference remains purely analogical. It establishes that a first cause exists, but provides no information about the character or the will of that cause. This is the ceiling of unassisted logic, deism. We arrive at a mathematically certain creator, but left in a cold relationship with an abstract principle. Kant identified the exact nature of this barrier. He argued that human cognitive tools, our senses and logical categories, have a boundary they simply cannot cross. Our reason is restricted to the phenomenal realm. This is the space where we process things as they appear to us through experience and categorization. God exists in the noumenal realm, the reality of things as they are. This infinite reality is separated from us by a divide that our finite intellect cannot bridge. David Hume and Ludwig Wittgenstein echoed this limit. They argued once we deduce a first cause, reason has done its job and must fall silent. Reaching this wall is a mathematically necessary result of a finite mind attempting to encompass the infinite. If we accept the silence of the philosophers, we remain in deism. We know a cause exists, but we can never know it personally. The only alternative to this permanent agnosticism is for the cause to speak first. Because the finite cannot reach up, the infinite must reach down. This requires a vertical intrusion into human history, a communication from the other side of the divide. Islamic theology identifies this intrusion as the Furqan, or the criterion. It is the external standard sent to resolve the ambiguity of human philosophy. The Quran presents itself as this Furqan. It invites the reader to examine its internal architecture and moral depth as evidence of its origin, rather than relying on external philosophical verification. Revelation serves as the bridge. It provides the personal guidance that reason, by its very nature, is unable to produce on its own. Secular philosophers often characterize faith as an abandonment of the intellect. However, we must distinguish between types of commitment. First is the irrational leap, a blind jump ignoring evidence. Theology rejects this. Next is Pascal's wager, treating God as an insurance policy. This calculated bet lacks the personal surrender necessary for a relationship. Separating these distortions allows us to examine the final and most rigorous form of religious commitment. The Kierkegaardian existential leap is a step taken with reason, but beyond its limits. It is an act of trust built on the structural evidence our logic has already identified. Reason provides the data, the necessity of a cause, and the coherence of the Furqan. But logic alone cannot compel the human will to love or trust. That remains an existential choice. This is the philosophical meaning of Islam, unconditional surrender. It is the response of a mind that has exhausted every logical path and chooses to submit to the divine criterion. Western philosophy reached its limit and settled into silence. Classical Islamic theology meets that silence with the eternal word.